Welcome to a Drop Tent Media Production.
The Porcupine with Adam Nutter.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another live episode of The Porcupine. I am Adam Nutter, as you know. Again, some quick housekeeping before we start this show. Man, I should have saved that show date. I got a bunch of show dates coming up. Oh, here it is. Again, I took all November off, guys. So December 3rd, I'll be in Bordentown, New Jersey. I think there's still some tickets left to that. I'll put it up on droptent.com/events soon. December 4th, I'll be at Water's Edge in Bensalem, PA. December 11th, I'll be at the Pop-In back at Chalfont, PA. It's my show, Neil's show. And then I'll be back at the Water's Edge the week after that. I'm hitting the road hard in January, like actually hard, like road in January and February and March and all that shit. I'll be like in Texas, California, Arizona, New Hampshire, a bunch of different fucking places. So I will be hitting the road soon, which is sick. Of course, please subscribe on my YouTube page, youtube.com/AdamNutter for all this shit. And at Adam Nutter and all social media and stuff like that. All right. That bullshit's over. Guys, my guest tonight, I think we've been trying to get him on for like 3 months. We just kept fucking missing scheduling and stuff. But the man himself, for the Lines of Liberty podcast, you know him, you love him, Mr. Marc Clair, everybody.
What's up, Adam? You know, I just like to play hard to get. It's kind of my gimmick. You're not the only one.
That's why I wanted you more, though. It works.
Exactly,
I get why chicks
right?
do it. I'm like, I want him now. I have to.
It does work. Works with women, works with podcast hosts. I mean, it's pretty universal.
That's what I'm at. I guess this is actually kind of a good timing. Before we even start that, we were off air. We were talking about how I'm banned from Facebook for going live for 30 days. And I just tried it on StreamYard right now to go live. And it said, nah, you're banned for 30 days. And the reason, again, you and I, all the libertarian circle that we're in, we say some crazy shit online every now and then, right? You know, provocative stuff, trying to get people fucking thinking, even just trolling, whatever.
Sure.
None of that got me suspended. It was, I got my new Ford Bronco, wearing the hat. Okay. I made an OJ Simpson joke. Like, oh, I wanted it in white, but Ford wouldn't give it to me. That was fine. Okay. Cause I got a blue Ford Bronco. A bunch of other people are commenting on it. Like, oh, you should get, bigger tires. You get this, you should get that. I was like, oh yeah, dude, I'm actually planning on spray painting in white and I'm going to kidnap my friend at gunpoint and run from the cops soon. That got me suspended.
Wow.
For 30 days of Facebook Live.
It's weird, man. You never know what it's going to be. Like, I'll put up episodes that I'm sure are going to get taken down from YouTube because we get a lot of strikes on YouTube. Like, we're going to be gone any day now from there. But like, I just did a show about January 6th where we talked about. Sorry, I don't want to get you banned from everywhere.
You're good.
But yeah, we talked about January 6th. We talked about the election, how there's things might not be all on the up and up. We talked about COVID. We talked about ivermectin. Didn't get taken down. We do one live stream to an unlisted page, which isn't even public. It's just for our patrons. A couple hundred people can access it. And it's about the Travis Scott concert thing. And that one gets a strike and that one gets taken down. Meanwhile, the other one with all the things you're not supposed to say is fine.
What was their reasoning for the Travis Scott thing?
There's never reasoning. It was actually medical misinformation. We did talk about vaccines at some point. So who knows? We probably said something that they didn't like. So.
This is like a weird. I mean, I know like Odyssey. Like I'm on Odyssey too, and like that's like a good thing too. But that's still not YouTube. Like people still don't know what the fuck Odyssey is. You know, it's like you're like, hey,
only libertarian nerds are on Odyssey, basically.
yeah, it's true. I'm like, I'm on Odyssey. People are like Homer, like the Iliad. Like what the fuck are you talking about? And I'm like, no, it's like
I'm not into the Greek stuff, man. I don't know. I'll stick to YouTube.
Yeah, I'm like, no, it's like YouTube, but for like libertarians. I think I don't know. I don't really know. I know Drew Hancock's part of it. That's all I know.
That's pretty much all I know too. That's
all I know about Odyssey, and I'm on it. But like, I feel like we need some sort of greater push for some sort of like tech thing. But I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not one to be like, well, the government needs to step in and fix the tech issue. But like, so what is how do we fix this issue? Like, how do we fix the suppression?
Yeah, I mean, what we really need to focus on is not like we need the new platforms. It's that we need the people that do platforms or people in our community to understand more of like the protocols behind creating platforms. So if our community or people in it, I'm not the guy, but if other people in it understand how to create the platforms, they know the protocols that can create those platforms, then you can kind of keep building your own thing and build your sort of alternate pathways. That is why I like Odyssey, actually, because it is blockchain based and it's censorship proof. And so that's why I prefer Odyssey as sort of my YouTube backup. But we also live in the reality where if we want people to sort of stumble upon our show, you're a lot more likely to do that on YouTube than you are on Odyssey. Odyssey is more going to be like the people that are already there or that already follow you, because, you know, my dad's not going to find me on Odyssey, but he's not going to find me on YouTube either, honestly. But
yeah, right. My dad's like 66. He'll be 67 like April or whatever. But like, he's like he'll always be like, oh, where's your new episode? I'm like, where it's always been. I told
Everywhere.
you 40,000 times where to find it. Like, it's not changing.
I searched my email and
is it on text? Yeah, man. Sure. It doesn't matter.
My dad actually listens on. I didn't realize it because I've set up the podcast app for him. I even subscribed to Lions of Liberty on his podcast app on his phone, and he was talking to me, and then I realized he was like listening to it on his desktop, just like pressing play on the website, which you can do. We have a website. There's a play button, but I think he's the only person I know that actually listens that way.
Dude, I gave my dad like all my passwords for like Netflix, Hulu, like all that shit. No, so he has like all the streaming stuff I have. He has access to on his smart TV, on his iPad, and on his computer. I set up in 3 different spots, and he still is like, "Yo, what's the password for your Hulu?" I'm like, "Hey man, it's all 3 things." Like, what do you mean? It's so fucking annoying. So you coming on today is an interesting, I think, timing coincidence, because just so happens that Dave Smith is currently in an argument with Greer. What's that guy's name?
Scott Greer. Yeah.
Scott Greer, right?
Uh-huh.
And for those who don't know what's going on, I'm sure you know a little more than what's going on the most, because you're already getting tagged in a possible debate with them.
Uh-huh.
So if you want to fill in the people who are like, what the fuck is Dave talking about now?
Yeah, I think there's a debate tug of war right now going on about where this debate should take place. But I will say that I think it should take place on Town Circle, which is a group I was actually a participant in a debate on Town Circle against Eric Brakey a few months ago, and I really love what those guys are doing, because they basically just they build up hype for debates by having people pledge money, and that money directly translates into meals that to go for the needy. So I think the minimum donation, or a pledge, I should say, you don't pay unless the debate happens. So if the debate never happens, no one ever gets charged. But yeah, I mean, you can donate like $10 minimum, and it's like $1. $1 gets 3 meals. So that's $30 at a minimum each person would be pledging, basically. And then once the debate happens, all those pledges go to, buy those meals. So that's why, and selfishly, I'm the one that's set to host it. So I basically challenged Dave and Scott to accept this debate on the Town Circle platform, with the idea being that once they both accept and the debate takes place, we get to feed a bunch of people in the meantime. So that sounds like the better way to go to me, but I'm biased.
No, that's a great idea. I mean, because I also like the idea how it's like the debate has to happen. Otherwise, there's a bunch of grifters who are like, yeah, we're going to have Dave Smith debate Trump.
Right.
To give us money.
I will say, as of right now, this has only been up. I tweeted it out last night, maybe no more than like 16 hours ago. There's $972 pledged so far, which translates to 2,916 meals. And that's just in like less than a day. That's so I'm pretty confident. Well, I know Dave will, I don't know, but I'm very confident Dave will accept. And then Scott actually did challenge him to a debate, and did say I would be happy to debate Dave. But I haven't seen a response to this specific request to debate yet. So we shall see. So I encourage people to tweet, pledge, pressure, apply that public pressure to make this thing happen. And hopefully on the Town Circle platform, because that's the one where we get to feed people to.
Yeah, no, it's a great fucking idea. So this guy Greer, he's essentially a righty. He's a Republican dude.
Yeah, I actually had him on Lions of Liberty maybe 3 or 4 years ago to talk about his book, No Campus for White Men. So obviously he is a white supremacist. So that is said sarcastically, hopefully, And I like the guy. I mean, I'm not versed on all his politics, but he is more of, I think, a traditional Republican / conservative, whereas Dave is, libertarian firebrand. So they definitely have differences. I'm not even sure how it started. I think it started with something about the police, because that was like what a lot of the tweets were about originally. But then it kind of went into some different areas. So, the original debate idea, like that Scott tossed out, was like talking about the police specifically. But I thought it would be more interesting because it went in so many different directions, to just really focus more on conservatism versus libertarianism and the differences in how they kind of see their points of view. So should this debate happen, we'll probably touch on a few things. We'll probably touch on the police issue, touch on the intervention issue, foreign wars issue. But, you know, it will be more of just looking at the overall values of libertarians versus conservatives.
Okay. I like that. I also, here's what I don't like about this Greer guy. And this is just based off of what I've seen the last 24 hours of his tweeting and texting and stuff like that is a lot of these guys will just they just talk too much shit for my liking. You know, like it's like this comfortability of like he thinks he's like slamming Dave, like he's just making shit up. You know, like he'd be like, "Oh, you didn't," and Dave's like, "I never even said that." Like I don't, you know, it's like that type of encounter when I see people go after Dave or like Scott or whoever the fuck is in an argument on Twitter seems disingenuous to me. I don't know, when he starts like kind of pushing in his own streamlined thoughts to like Dave's mouth, and Dave's like, come on, dude, we never said that shit. So that seems a little disingenuous off the top. The other thing is obviously the right. The biggest issue that the right I really have with the right currently is, well, I guess two things. One is they did nothing for the lockdowns, right? And they're supposed to be like, you know, freedom, and they just went along with everything. And then the other thing was obviously the police issue and how they just suck the dick of the cops no matter what for most of the part, unless it's January 6th, they're like the lockdown stuff, and the right's like, fuck the cops. But everything else, the cops are fucking heroes. And I'm like, hey, man, they weren't your friends when they were arresting the single mom who owned the bakery. And they're still not going to be your friends now. Like, it doesn't matter. They're still a tool of the government. Like, it's just is what it is.
No matter what the system or no matter what the laws in place, the cops are the enforcement arm of that. So at the end of the day, like, I'm not necessarily a cop like blamer, but I'm also not a cop praiser either, because they are just essentially a tool of the system. And for the most part, there are probably a few exceptions to this, but not really, because they probably wouldn't be cops for very long. For most part, the cops just enforce the system. So if the system is unjust, then the cops are going to do a bunch of unjust shit. If the system is more just, and I don't know how that's necessary, I don't have the solution to that either necessarily, not when you give the police basically a local monopoly over enforcement and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, it's going to be what the cops end up doing is going to be a reflection of the system. So I do think focusing on the police is faulty, but I think that's faulty on both sides. It's faulty to just focus on hating the police, and it's faulty to focus just on praising the police too. Yeah,
because like, again, I'm a realistic dude. I mean, as much libertarianism and anarchy and capitalism I want or whatever, it's like I understand like the need for police, because like, again, murder should be illegal, right? Like we all agree with that. Like assault should be illegal, theft should be like that. And then yeah, you do need, I guess, people to enforce those, because we're not going to just change the laws overnight where it's like, all right, everybody just protect yourselves, the vigilante, which would be great, right? In a way, like they'll be like, oh, I don't have to worry about, I don't have to call another entity to protect myself. I can just handle it how I want to handle it. But that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I think we should just focus. I mean, obviously, I'm just preaching the choir, but like focus on like obviously changing the laws, changing the system. But then look at the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff, and you're like, well, I mean, I guess that worked out one time for us, but how about all the other times it hasn't?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Most of the times.
Most of the times. And it's like, oh, and that's the other thing that was a little annoying with like a lot of libertarians over the Rittenhouse stuff. It's like, they're like, oh, look, we did it. It's like, hold on, we did it. But how about all the other things we complain about? Like Brown and Taylor stuff, or any of the no-knock raid stuff, you know, like those people still get fucked when they try to defend themselves against the cops. It's like, that's still fucked up. We still have to change it just because Kyle got off, barely, by the way. Like he was all but persecuted everywhere else but the actual trial.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's at the end of the day, I mean, like, especially stuff like the Brown and Taylor thing, like that is so, to me anyway, I mean, I wasn't there, but to me, it's as cut and dry as can possibly be, because when you're breaking into someone's home, expect to get shot. And I don't care if you're the cops or you're whatever, you shouldn't bust into people's houses, especially now maybe there would be a situation where that would be justified if, say, there's literally someone being held at knife point and the only way to save them is to bust in. That's obviously not the case with the Brown and Taylor case, or with 99.999% of no-knock raids. They're almost all exclusively for enforcement of the war on drugs. Yeah. So they're almost all exclusively, there's no reason to be busting in and not shit. Just knock the door. Bring all the same shit. Just knock on the fucking door. It's not that hard.
Yeah. There's a weird. You're right. Actually, it's mostly drugs. Because like, no one's like, oh, there's a murderer in there. You should go get him. And they're like, all right. And then they're mad about it. It's always like, oh, we got the wrong house for this drug raid for like weed, and then we kill the baby. Sorry.
Mhm.
It's like, what? For what were you searching for? Weed? You know, like whatever the fuck. It's never like this guy killed 37 people and we try to get him out.
Yeah, it's like we had to kill your mom because we were afraid she might get high near you. First of all, babies are already high, I'm pretty sure anyway. So
remember the flashbang baby?
What's the Oh, I think I do. It was a baby got hit by a flashbang grenade. It was
they threw it in the threw it in the window and landed in the crib.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some crazy shit out there when you see like what just law enforcement overall as a country we just get away with. Like I saw this crazy video where there must have been like an incident on the street, and there's this guy's house, and there's a fence separating the street and sidewalk from this guy's property, like a regular fucking fence. And this guy has his dog on his side of the fence where it should be, and it's just barking at all the cops standing out there because it's a fucking just chaos going. And just dogs is minding its own, but being loud. And this canine cop has his dog outside on the other side of the fence on the sidewalk, and these dogs are barking at each other, as you know. Dogs do.
Yes.
And then this canine officer took his gun out and shot the other guy's dog through the fence.
And he's not going to get punished at all.
And all I could think of is like, why can't we kill that? Like, why can't that guy kill that guy? Like, you know, like this cop just recklessly fired his government issued gun into someone's private property that wasn't involved in anything going on outside. And then if that guy was to get a gun and just kill that one cop, not all of them. I'm not saying go on a fucking, but just return and be like, kill that one guy who just killed his fucking dog and shot his. He would go to jail forever.
Indeed. Yeah, I mean,
it's so fucked, dude.
And the worst part is on the rare occasions when the police get in trouble or what have you, they are not the ones in trouble. It's the police department that might pay some kind of restitution, or the local town or the local municipality that might pay some restitution, that restitution of which comes from the taxpayers. So it's just coming from that guy, actually. Like the guy it happened to was one of the people paying for it, and then all of his neighbors too. So even in a situation where there is some kind of justice for the victim, there's another layer of injustice because you're not actually punishing the person. You're punishing maybe like the town, which is just taking money from everybody else, whereas the person usually stays on the force and keeps doing his job.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing makes you more anti-government than working in government. Like it makes you see like how fucked up it really is. Like I soldiers, right? Like anyone in the military. A lot of those guys, either you come out of there and you're even more like aligned with the government, or you're like, yo, fuck, burn it down. Like there's no middle ground. I feel like there's always like it's just a hard break. Either like you're just brainwashed or not. And people know this about me. I don't know if you do or not, but I used to be a cop years ago.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So before I was a comic first, right? So I was 18 years old.
That's an interesting path. I would have expected the other direction, but
no. So. Well, I mean, people might have heard this before. I'm sorry if you're listening to this again, but I feel like this story now.
I've told my origin story like 40 times.
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
Just gotta keep doing it. Yeah.
It's an origin story. So no, I remember I'm from Staten Island, New York. So, Manhattan's right there. One of the out of the two best cities in the country to do stand up. Right, Manhattan and LA, like to start. I was 18 years old, and I started doing open mics in Manhattan. I fucking love comedy. Growing up in Staten Island, it's a conservative borough out of all New York City. It's the only borough that leans right. So, like, I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, Italian household, so it was more like Republican leaning, conservative. Not even like so much like, oh, we give a shit about like Bush or anything like that, but just the conservative value part, not like the actual party. You know what I'm saying? A lot of city workers I grew up with, like family, cops, firemen, sanitation workers, like blue collar jobs. They make good money, good benefits. I don't know anything about politics at 18 years old. I don't know. I barely know Republicans and Democrats. I don't know what the fuck libertarians are by then. I don't know good, evil. I don't know the government's bad. You don't know shit when you're 18. You're a fucking idiot kid. Love comedy, though.
You might not know shit when you're 28 even.
Oh, dude. I was retarded until I was like 32. Like I'm still retarded. I'm 35. I'll be 35 Sunday. I'm still dumb. But like,
I'm basically always cringing at the version of myself from 3 years ago.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God, I was like this at 30. And now I'm like, and for 3 years from now, I'm like, oh, like I'm 35. Yeah, dude, I'm with
Even
you.
just things like seeing like when like a Facebook status memory comes up
Yeah.
10 years ago, just the way I type it, just the way I talk, it's like, oh God, who is this fucking loser?
I'm like, ew, people fuck me? It's crazy. Like, that's wild. Yeah, so like I'm 18 years old and I don't know shit. And I'm doing comedy for like 2 years at this point. I'm like 20. And I started panicking. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could ever make money doing this. And my parents, so they didn't have like faith in me or anything, but they're like, you should probably get a job. You know what I'm saying? Because they're like, you can't, this probably won't be successful for you. And I listened, and I was like, oh, I hate bullies. Bullying, I was always anti-bully. I got bullied as a kid, even though I was like an all-star football player like in high school, like legitimately really good. I got recruited to play like D2 college and all this shit. But like I was such a nerd, like I love Spider-Man and shit.
Yeah.
So like this is back in 2001 when that was gay. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This wasn't now. This
you
is
actually
like,
used to be a loser if you like that stuff. Now
Yes.
it's actually like cool and mainstream and acceptable.
Right. So like
Things we had to go through to like comics, man.
dude, right? I had to earn this badge of nerdom, and now it's like
Exactly.
automatic. I had to like take a beating. So like my own teammates would be like fucking like I didn't get along with anybody on my team. I would get bullied. I wouldn't really get beat up, but like on the verge of getting beat up a lot. And 18 years old, I was like, oh fuck that, and I learned MMA. So from like 18 to like 25, I just did MMA. So I was like, I'm never getting bullied again. You know what I'm saying? But I'm 20 years old now, and I'm like, oh, the cops stop bullying and stuff like that. Like they actually stop bad guys thinking this whole, narrative.
Mm.
And then I sign up because I have cousins who are cops. It's again, I'm like, it's a good job. I get benefits. I get to retire.
Now I know MMA, so I can kick some ass.
Right? I'm not worried about getting beat up. I get into the academy and I'm like, hey, I'm here to help people. And they're like, you're in the wrong profession.
Like what?
Like,
we get one of these every once in a while.
Like, you're here to do what we tell you to do. I'm like, oh. So I go to the academy.
Like, oh, I thought I was going to rescue cats from trees and help
Right?
old ladies across the street.
So we don't do that. We just write tickets and arrest people who don't deserve it. Cool. That's cool. No, so I graduate the academy, and I get put on Staten Island where I live, and I'm like, all right, man, here I am. I'm going to help people, and they're just like, go write tickets and go. And they're like, oh, I don't want to, and they're like, yeah, you have to, and I'm like, oh, cool. But like,
what if I didn't do anything?
Like, nah.
Like, no, I'm still have to.
Yeah. So this is what I learned pretty quickly in that job is I met up with a few other good guys who kind of all were tricked into the idea of what this job was also. And then we all slowly kind of on that job found libertarianism and Ron Paul and stuff like that. And then we all just kind of on our own policing how we thought we should have policing should be. So like this is true. I only have one drug arrest in my entire record, and I was forced to take it. Some sergeant made me take it. Wow. And like you can't say no. Like it's like you get in trouble. You know what I'm saying? That's the other thing too, is like these jobs will fuck with you. So like if you're like, I'm not gonna write that summons. Like again, I'm from Staten Island. I live in Staten Island. Now people who don't understand New York City and the boroughs, like New York City is a fucking nightmare. To get to like the south part of Staten Island to the north part of Staten Island takes like an hour.
It's a nightmare to go from any borough to any borough.
So people don't understand like the torture. So if you just started like disobeying them, now they couldn't technically fire you because like quotas are illegal, right? Mm-hmm. They would go, oh, cool. So you're gonna get transferred to the Bronx, and you're gonna do day tours now. So fuck your family. Like now they're fucking with your family. They're fucking with your livelihood. They fuck with you, and it makes it like unlivable. And then at that point, like fuck, I'll just do it. Because it's not worth it to me, right?
It's actually like an interesting sort of an analog to the current situation that now like tens and maybe hundreds of millions of maybe not hundreds of millions of people, but maybe like tens and high tens of millions of people are going through with just like vaccine mandates and stuff like that. Like, thinking they're in the kind of job where, this, they're not going to be forced to do something totally against their ethics, at least at this, this normal job where I'm just selling this thing or whatever, editing videos. Like, I'm not, at least I don't have to battle these moral issues like a cop might. And then suddenly it's like, oh, wait, hold on. Am I part of this thing now? Now I'm forced to hold on. So I think it's interesting that you went through something like that, like way before the part now where like everybody is going through some version of that. Not everybody, but a lot of people.
This was 2008 to 2000, like 12 or something. 8, no, more. No, it was more than that. Oh shit, like 15 or 14 or 15. So like 2008 to like 2015ish. And I fucking hated it. Like every fucking day. I was like, yo, this fucking like it takes a toll on your mental health, like that shit. Like because you feel like shit all the fucking time. You're like, what am I gonna also like you see crazy shit. And like you're not meant to no person is meant to just see a bunch of dead kids all the time, like throughout their life. You know what I'm saying? Like it fucks with you. Like
do you really is that something you really see often?
I saw
Like,
I mean, no, my point is like you probably shouldn't ever see a dead kid. If you see 3, that's too many. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a lot. Like there's a lot of fucking dead kids. As a 20-something-year-old guy, like, what am I seeing right now? And then like all the gunshot victims, all the stabbings, all the fucking just domestic violence, like all of it.
And then imagine if you were a soldier or something, and you're actually the one killing the kids. It's like another level of
right. And like so me and a few core group of guys, we're like, no, we're just gonna police how we think it should be done, like the core crimes, like theft, assault, robbery, burglary, murder, that shit.
And those ones we're gonna beat the living shit out of them. Dude, we're gonna really enforce those.
Dude, I fucked up a domestic violence guy one time so bad because this guy would beat the shit out of his wife constantly. And he fucking would always run away before we got there. And then we finally ran into him one day when he was on the flea, and he took a swing at me, and I was like, "That was a mistake."
I was waiting for that swing.
I was waiting for that swing, dude.
I trained for 7 years for this fucking swing.
Yeah, right. But like, there were moments in there where you really did help people, and they were like truly thankful, and they're like, "That felt good." But like that was so not on the scale of like those moments, the other moments. It wasn't
9 lives ruined, 1 life slightly improved for the day.
Right. So it's like it was a miserable time, but I got hurt a bunch in that job. I got into a bunch of car accidents. I got a bunch of head trauma.
Wow.
And then, because I was looking for a way out. Like, but here's the thing: I also had a kid. Had a kid. So then, like, it puts you in a position of like, oh, now I have to like provide for this kid. I can't just quit, right? Mm-hmm. So there's all these other factors at play. And then, I was looking to just get off of patrol at that point. I was like, hey, at least if I could eliminate like my time on the streets, I could like eliminate my fucking involvement in this piece of shit. So I was looking to just do canine. And K9 and NYPD is a joke. It's not like K9 and the rest of the country where like they just don't do anything. Like they use them for nothing. They use them for stadium security. That's it. And I was like, oh, that's great. I'll just do that. I love dogs. I'll fucking do that. I'll go outside of Yankee Stadium. I don't give a fuck. Like, at least I'm not doing it. And then I got hurt for the 3rd time. I got into my 3rd car accident. And they're like, you have too much brain trauma for this job. I was like, I know. I shouldn't do this anymore. Like I can't. I get headaches all the time. My memory's shitty. I have like bad impulsive like decision making skills now. Like I'm all fucked up. Like it was a good decision.
Like,
I
just started a podcast. Like what the fuck? Like just doing crazy shit.
But like the injury, like me leaving that's when I went to comedy again full time. That's so yes, that was like 2015. So I've been doing comedy full time for overall plus the 18-19 years. Yeah, like 9 years altogether. So
awesome. That's great.
That's my origin story. That's my weird origin story.
Did you just pull the trigger one day, or did you like start getting into comedy more and more as you were working your way out of the force, or did you say fuck it? I'm
no. So when I got hurt,
I think this just turned into me interviewing you for live.
Right?
I don't know what happened.
No, the 3rd time I got hurt, I was like I was out for like a full year before they like officially released me. Like I was a fucking football player, so I had a lot of time just to myself just to write stuff down again, because I was like, I think I'm done here. I think they're gonna let me go anyway. Like this, like I'm so fucked up. Like I was so bad. Like after that last car accident, like with just like trauma and brain stuff. Like I was like in a really bad funk for like the next 2 years after that, 2 to 3 years after that. So I just wrote like jokes. I was like, I think I'm just gonna do this again full time, because what the fuck else am I gonna do? Right? Like what? So that's what I did, and that's nice. Yeah, that's it. Now here
that's a hell of a path to a comic career.
Right? But like I was talking to Tom, Tommy from Year Zero podcast?
Yeah. Tommy Sanders, he's the man.
Again, Tommy, a military guy. Mm-hmm. Same thing. Like comes out of the military, he's like, yo, fuck that shit. I'm like, right? Fuck that shit. It's like the best white pill working for government, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's interesting how many people I know that are like pretty hardcore libertarian or what have you that came from the military. I think I don't think we're too quick to jump on the actions of the military, like as a whole, as a unit. Like, yes, the mission is not anything what it's purported to be, but I think we should be a little more careful. Like, like maybe just in terms of how we talk to people in the military, because I think so many of those can be great allies because they a lot of them probably, some of them maybe just go in for a job or to get college paid for or something, but I think a lot of them actually do go in because they think they are like defending freedom and defending their country and all this. And I think once they get delusion from that, they're very much open to the alternative story and to see like, why is this not lining up with what I was told? And maybe it's somewhat similar, like your experience being a cop, where you're like, this is not, I had one idea going in and I get there and it's like this totally different thing. It's about getting tickets and fucking up people's lives. Like, what is this? So I think a lot of people in the military go through the same thing, and then they're kind of more open to people like us that are, might have an alternate view of the entire system altogether.
There were so many dumb Italian meatheads I work with on the NYPD that were 100% there because they're like, oh, this is just like a 20 and out from, like, they're not in it because they give a shit. Like, people, I can only speak on behalf of the NYPD. That's all I can speak of. Okay, I don't know anything else. But it was such a large organization, and like every borough was like its own city. You know what I'm saying? So like the Staten Island guys didn't give a shit about the Brooklyn guys. The Brooklyn guys didn't give a fuck about the Manhattan guys. That's how it was. So like we were like our own place anyway. And most of the guys you talk to are like, I don't give a fuck about this. I don't give a fuck about this crime. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, it was just like, I just want to retire at 41 and be done. Like, that's what it mainly. And that, by the way, I guess it's a problem in itself because you are whatever. But like, it wasn't this like, I'm gonna go out there and fucking get these people. It was just like, it's a job. I don't give a shit. Like, that was a lot of it. It really was, and it's weird. You had the occasional guys who were like, the hammers who are like, I'm gonna go out and write 40 summons this day, and you're like, all right, dude, you're a hero. It's like, you're so cool. You saved a life with the 10 summons, man. You're so cool. It's like I never gave a shit about that stuff. It's dumb.
Yeah, I think there's probably, I mean, I don't know the percentages, but I think there's probably a direct correlation between the percentage that go into it just as a job and only look at it as that. They probably just stick around because they don't have a strong feeling one way or the other, as opposed to people that like you, that maybe is more rare, that went into it actually with some idealism around it. That's who is quick to get disillusioned, I think, and who's probably not going to last and might come out of it with a totally different view on things.
Dude, it was so disillusioning. Like, literally, like the first week of the academy, like, oh man, I've been bamboozled.
Like, what did I do?
Like, what the fuck? Actually, this is a good question though. That's my origin story. What's your origin story into libertarianism?
Oh boy, there's so many places to start. I guess just as far as like specifically libertarian type stuff would have to go back to my days in college at Penn State. Not to fully age myself, but we're talking like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I had a friend of mine named Howie Snowden. He makes semi-regular appearances on the podcast now, on some of our roundtables and a lot of our Patreon shows. But many late nights drinking, he would bring up this guy because in college, in high school, he was a congressional page for some Democratic congressman. And when he was in Congress, he got to know this guy, Ron Paul. He would sometimes hang out in his office and talk to him about foreign policy and liberty and stuff. And he would always make sure to go see his floor speeches. There'd even be times when Ron Paul, most of Congress has left and Ron Paul is just giving a speech to be on the record, and he would be in there listening to those speeches. So I just remember thinking why is this fucking dude telling me about this old congressman? We're partying here. What is this? But eventually I was all right,
fucking nerd talking about politics. I'm trying to do coke.
But he seemed otherwise really fun. So yeah, I'm trying to do lines here. But eventually I took him up on it and was like, all right. And he actually he sent me to Ron Paul. So I started reading his column, Texas Straight Talk, at the time. And he also gave me a book, Harry Brown's How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, which were kind of two very different sort of approaches from it. Ron Paul's was more, at least the way I was filtering it, the political approach. And what I found interesting about his approach is that he was always discussing, most of his columns that I was reading at that time were critical of Republicans. They were criticizing the George Bush administration. They were criticizing the war on drugs, the war on terror, whatever. It was almost all solely directed at Republicans. And here he was, a Republican. And when I grew up, I grew up listening to talk radio with my dad in the car, AM talk radio type stuff. And I always was under the impression it was just Republicans here, Democrats here, and they just fight each other. And that's what politics is. Cool. And here was this guy who was actually attacking his own party much more strongly than the other party, which I just found so interesting. And I realized he actually believes what he's saying. He's not just here doing the stage show. And I did see it much as a stage show, because I actually, one of my earlier influences, even before that, who got me more interested in just politics at all was Jesse Ventura, because I was a big pro wrestling fan. And then he ran and became the governor of Minnesota. And he always used to talk about how like politics is like wrestling. Like they, you know, it's a big show, Democrats versus Republicans. They have their big fights. And then once the cameras are off, once the lights are off, just like pro wrestlers, they go to the bar and they, you know, they do a shot of whiskey and they go on with their day because they're all part of the same thing here. But Ron Paul was the one that made me realize, like, well, I guess he entrenched that is the most of the system because he seemed so outside of it. But I just realized he wasn't, he might have been putting on a performance of some kind, but it wasn't the same kind of performance as everyone else. He wasn't just trying to talk to his, you know, his normal political base. He was trying to, I think what I realize now, he was trying to find the remnant. Essentially, he's trying to just find, it's not appealing to everybody, but it's going to find those people that have that sort of spark of liberty in them, or that, you know, whatever it is in some of us that kind of guides us in this direction. So that's what stood out to me about him. And he just got me interested in politics in a way I had never been interested before. And then at the same time, reading Harry Brown's book, How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World, kind of came from a totally non-political direction of things at the time, at least when I was reading it. I mean, I think it was around the time he ran for the LP nomination and got the LP nomination. But I wasn't really like following that aspect of things at the time. So I was just reading this book from the 70s that's just about like how to pay less taxes and how to, you know, create more wealth and how to invest properly and all this stuff. And it's like, oh, this is actually stuff I can use in my life. So this is stuff that kind of has guided me in some ways. And I've always been influenced by that book and by Harry Brown's sort of mindset about things. So I think, you know, he is more applied liberty, where at the same time, Ron Paul was showing me more just like how to be philosophically principled and how to sort of, you know, put your beliefs out there, even when you're working within a system that doesn't really care about those beliefs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like I was telling you before, like I missed the first like kind of Ron Paul movement. Because that was the 08 one, right? Because I wasn't really into politics. I was like 20 years old, you know, whatever the fuck. And that's when I was becoming a cop also. And like, I heard of him, but I guess I didn't understand. I kind of caught wind of him like 2010, 11-ish. And then the 2012 Ron Paul movement. That's when I was like, okay, this is what I believe in. That's like when I fully was like, this is it. This is exactly how I feel about the stuff. It was that. So I get you. He really seems to be like the guy that everybody always refers to as like what got them here at some point. Harry Brown, he was the guy that the only other guy that they changed that 180-day rule form, voting rule for in Pennsylvania, wasn't it? For the convention. Or maybe I'm familiar with that. Maybe I'm conflating names. Okay, you were familiar with what happened with the PA convention last year, right? With the
recently, yeah.
In my state right now, with the whole, they didn't waive the rule.
Right. It's you have to be registered for 180 days, but they usually waive it, and this time they didn't. Yeah.
Right, because of the Mises thing, and I could have swore the only other times ever happened was because that guy was like running for something.
That would not surprise me. That sounds about right, because in a similar. I don't know if he's quite as similar as the Mises Caucus, because he definitely like had people allies within the party too, because there's also accusation of people like rigging the thing in favor of Harry Brown. So who knows what really went on? There's people that have different sides of these things, but it would not surprise me if the way he was such a firebrand didn't jive with a lot of like, say, like the Caucasian elements of the party. That is Caucasian. Yeah.
So people thought that he was rigged in, like that's like a conspiracy.
There is an accusation, about that. Yeah, that is like a controversy. I forget. I think it was Scott Horton I heard talking about it. I'm trying. There was a little flare up like a year ago. I think it was actually over Jacob Horn. So that's what it was. It was Jacob Hornberger and Harry Brown were feuding, and it was some kind of like controversy over like the LP sent out some like newsletter or some, maybe I don't have the facts here, so I'm just kind of bullshitting it. But the general story is like the LP sent something out, and I think it was like with Harry Brown on it, and it was seen as like they're pushing his campaign more, and that Harry Brown also had accusations against Hornberger's camp. I think they were running against each other. I think this was, I want to say, the year 2000 or whatever election was around there. So yeah, that was like an old feud that kind of cropped up again. The commentary on it cropped up again. Some articles started popping up when Hornberger was running for the LP nomination. So yeah, but I have a vague recollection of that, but I can't pretend to know all the details.
Fact Dave has a very important question. He says, Mark, what are your thoughts on Hollow Earth? And
I fucking love the Hollow Earth. It's my favorite Earth. It's my favorite version of Earth.
Out of all
No,
the Earth.
legit, I do. I do. I was just on Tower Gang Pod last night. Why didn't he ask me on there? That would have been an awesome
I
line
actually
to
got
go.
to watch your episode on that. What are your thoughts on Hollow Earth?
I fucking love the Hollow Earth. I'm not joking. It's like one of my favorite theories ever. Like it's there, and it's something that has been discussed throughout mankind, like literally for thousands and thousands of years. And one thing that I have come to in these last few years, especially, I get into a lot of like mystical shit and more like ancient history type stuff, like Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, all that stuff. And you see like throughout history, whether it's just myths that keep popping up or whether it's something that's real that we just don't think is real anymore, similar themes come up, and the idea of an underworld or a civilization within the earth or magical mystical shit going on somehow within the earth, that just keeps cropping up and cropping up. So stuff like that I like to, in my like head canon of what, I like to like, I'm always like building a unified conspiracy theory in my mind, and I think that's one that it pops up enough that I can always sort of fit a Hollow Earth theory into any other theory any other all-encompassing theory I want to dream up. So I love the idea of the Hollow Earth. I want it to be real. I don't know if it is, but I want it to be.
No, I actually, Fat Day says check out Wendy Goon.
Okay.
I actually used to think that was retarded, the Hollow Earth thing, like years ago, but I way agree with you now. Like once you actually look into it, you're like, actually, a lot of this kind of makes sense and adds up, and when they parallel it with like cave systems and shit like that, you're like, huh, okay. Like, you ever see that one? The miss. I'm sure that you're aware of the missing 411. Did you ever hear that?
Yes.
Okay, for anybody
Very
out
aware.
there who's not aware of that, the missing 411 is people just go missing in national parks at like a weird clips, and also like very weird instances, like not just like, oh, he fell down a crevice. It's like his clothes were found miles apart, like neatly put on like rocks, like weird shit, like very weird disappearances. And if you overlay like a map of America's cave systems and a map of the missing 401 cases, it's like right over the cave systems. It's fucking crazy. It's really crazy.
Yeah, and there's stuff that like they can tie in Bigfoot to that stuff. There's
Yeah.
like Bigfoot appearances are a lot of around that same stuff. So I'm on board the Hollow Earth / cave /
Okay, did you ever hear
Bigfoot
this?
train.
Did you ever hear this one? now we're going fuck libertarian shit.
Yes. This is my favorite part. Yeah.
Did you ever hear this one? Bigfoot big feet were they were like a culture, like a civilization, and they had like cities and shit too. And then we killed them off.
Maybe they're like the Nephilim of like the Bible, maybe like, or like the giants that they talk about in the Bible. Because I definitely believe that we had like that when I say we, I just mean on Earth.
Yeah,
there was super advanced technology, like way before we can even way before we even think about history. So I never tied those two things together, though. I always thought about it as like not necessarily ancient aliens, but like just ancient sort of advanced mankind. But I like we can unify these things now. We can unify Hollow Earth, Bigfoot, and tie it all in, and just make the big feet the people who had the advanced technology and were the giants or the Nephilim or whatever. So I've never put that together or had it put together for me, but I love it. So it's my new headcanon for it.
The theory is like they were advanced and we were threatened by it, so we burnt their shit down, and then we kind of killed them off, and they retreated into like Hollow Earth. And then the theory is like they're building back up to come back out to take shit back over.
Oh shit.
That's the theory.
Should I be
I've heard.
concerned?
I don't know.
If any big feet are listening, I've always been a supporter and fan of the big feet, and I will gladly serve the new Bigfoot administration as your resident podcaster. So
you know what? Fuck Bigfoot. I'll kill
big feet of
myself.
liberty.
Big feet. Big feet. Yeah.
Are you ready to roar?
Yeah. Although your hair is looking magnificent, so it could be lion-like or Bigfoot-like if you keep growing it out.
My secret is actually ivermectin. I actually use the horse paste directly in my hair.
Oh wait, so Fat Day.
That's a joke I'm workshopping, so that felt like a polite laugh. So I might need a little more work.
No, I liked it. Fat Dave says ties into the Great Reset theory. Interesting. So I didn't know that.
Whoa, we can tie. See, Fat Dave's got it. You can tie everything together if you're savvy enough. So the big feet are the ones that are coming to reset the whole thing. Is that the idea?
Yeah, Dave. Is that what that means?
Yeah. Let's just have a chat. Just bring on Dave. Bring
back
Dave onto the show.
Yeah, Dave, Mark, you're done. Dave, we're gonna invite back Dave onto the show. Yeah, like it sucks like to when you try to talk about this shit with other people because they're like, those fucking dumb conspiracy shit, and you're like, did you ever fucking look into it?
Mm-hmm.
You're like,
the Great Reset or the
no. I mean, like anything, like
anything at all.
When people like just immediately like that's dumb, dude. You know, it's
like,
like
it might be, but give me actual reasons. Don't just say it's dumb because then you're just a robot,
right? Because they'd be like, well, science says you can't. You like, there's like metal in the earth, and that's why we can't. I go, but how do you know?
Science doesn't know jack shit. Like honestly, about the earth. Science knows very little. They don't even know what's going on in most of the oceans. So you think they know what's going on underneath the earth, underneath the ocean?
No, I don't. That's man. What's in the fucking oceans?
Yeah, right. Like that there might be. There's probably much crazier shit than big feet underneath the ocean. Like we don't even go down to most of it. Like we only recently found out that giant squids were real. Like that was like a whole like Moby Dick era ye old sea yarn, and then they found one. They're like, oh shit, this is real. So who knows what the fuck else is down there? Maybe mermaids? Who fucking knows? I like to believe mermaids.
But
can we unify mermaids and big feet?
I'm trying to think of it.
Bigfoot reset theory. Maybe the mermaids are the lovers of the big feet. The big feet are land. The mermaids are on the water, and that's where they get it on.
I'm almost positive someone fucked like a seal back in the day, and they thought it was a mermaid, like for sure, right? Like a manatee, like. Right,
maybe there was like the big feet had all this technology before the Bigfoot reset, and maybe they were doing just genetic engineering and shit. Maybe they're just fucking merging shit together, and so we had like weird mantars and fucking mermaids, and maybe this is all real. I'm completely open to believing this shit was real. Doesn't mean I'm gonna say it was real, but I can definitely not confidently say it wasn't.
Yeah, manatees, exactly. In fact, yeah, I was actually just gonna say that. So like, if you look at like a manatee dive. Mm-hmm. And like their tail, because they have like I think they used to be like land animals, so they still have like kind of like knee joints in their fucking tail, and it's creepy. It looks like a mermaid. That's why it looks like a mermaid's tail. And I think that was a lot of the fucking mistakes from sailors back in the day. They're like, fucking, it's a thing, it's a lady. You go fuck it.
Hey, I saw a tail. You think it's a chick? Yeah, let's go fuck it.
Let's go fuck it. I look like I had lady knees. that's like some of the old sailors say. So Dave says the Great Reset theory is that every couple hundred years the human race is reset to a less technological time.
So that kind of ties into like the mud flood theory or the Tartarian thing or what have you. Which is like that's the idea that like our history is kind of all bullshit, and we've been in this current time for just like a couple hundred years, and whatever cool shit was here was mostly like wiped out and buried in the mud flood. So do the big feet trigger the mud floods?
So you know what's interesting? How like dinosaur bones or in museums are like all fake.
I'm pretty convinced dinosaurs are bullshit. I'm almost completely convinced of that. Yeah, this is Marc Clair unleashed. This is just all the shit that I.
No, but like they say that, like museums are like, no, we have to make casts because we don't have the complete. Set.
I don't want to say never because maybe I'm sure you can Google it. There's probably some but like almost every dinosaur like skeleton is not a skeleton. It's like they just find little things here and there, and then they piece them together and create models. Look what models have done for us in the modern age with COVID, with lockdowns, with climate change. So I don't know if I trust the we're gonna create this like Frankenstein monster creature from like a couple random bones we found and just say that this is what it was.
Because again, that's not even like a conspiracy. Like museums straight say that. Like, we don't have this, so we had to piece it together. It's like, oh, cool. So,
where's the real one? Is that in the back? Like, no, there's no real one. Like,
no,
okay.
Like, so that baby mammoth they have in ice, that they have the whole thing, and you could see it. Yeah, it's a fucking baby mammoth. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's tangible. Right. It's not like you had to piece together what they thought a mammoth was. Like, it was there. I see it.
Like, well, we found some hair here. We found a little thing that might be a tusk here, and here's a mammoth.
Watch, by the way, if they could clone that shit, which they say they're gonna do, that's happening. Sick.
Oh, I believe there's actually an area in Russia cordoned off to be a mammoth park. Like it's like a thing that's in creation.
Because it's supposed to have the permafrost, right?
And I'm down. Yeah, and that sounds. I want to go ride a mammoth or eat some mammoth, or I mean, not gonna lie, it's on my bucket list.
I don't want to eat one. Well, I don't know. Now I kind of do. He just said it. Now I'm kind of curious what they taste like.
Maybe the big feet are who killed off the mammoths originally, and then the humans were like, "Hey, we loved those things. Fuck you, big feet. Get out of here. Go underground."
I bet you it's really the Bigfoot are like, why are they saying this about us?
They're listening right now. They're like, what the fuck, man? We were literally living in huts, just like eating rabbits. And these guys just came along and burned our homes. Why are they so mad at us?
So Fat Dave brings up another good point, which Fat Dave, I am this. I was reading this last night. Are you an SCP guy, Mark?
What is an SCP?
Oh,
I guess that means no.
I get to bring you into this world.
I might be, and I just don't know the.
It's SCP. It's called Secure, Contain, Protect.
Okay.
It's like a fake fictional, essentially group writing project that's really well done and put together in court. No, what's the word? What's up with the C? Not choreographed. Fuck. Correlated. Nope.
Collated.
Yes, collated. And it's essentially like this secret government clandestine organization that keeps the world protected from a bunch of anomalous thing, kind of like a Men in Black, but not really. And the coordinated, yeah. And the SCP, and they have like levels of like how dangerous things are, and they go from like crazy to like funny, goofy shit. And it's really fucking interesting. It's really well done. But a lot of people say like, oh, that's real, and it's just it's guys is like a fake thing. And a lot of I think it's fake for sure, but because it is. But one of the examples is like, man, I gotta pull up like an example for you because I think you'll fucking dig it, dude. I dig it already. I don't even fully understand it. Yeah. No, you're gonna fucking love it. Okay, so like so SCP 1206. There's like 9,000 of them. There's like so many you could look into. So you could go
chapters.
Each number is its own individual story.
Interesting. So it's like the Bible. It's just like a bunch of stories cobbled together.
So like it'll be like this. It'll be like item number SCP-1206, object class safe, and then it gives you like the containment procedures for it, the description of it, and like any like interviews it has with like the organization, any like breaches it's had, any like examples it's had. So like this one is called the Wallflower, and it says the description is it's a serendipitous phenomenon that is a convergence of three factors: the degree of sky visibility over the event site, if at the time the green line track D outbound from Boston, Massachusetts. It's like crazy shit like this, and just go. I know, and it goes and goes and go. And there's like other ones, dude, that like you could look like what's
It's like a technical manual, then sort of.
Kind of, yeah. Here's another one, like a dance craze, SCP-1274. It's a mimetic hazard in the form of a novel dance. So it's like, oh, it's like a whole town will get shut down because they got caught with this dance disease, and then they had to send like a task force to like.
Is that where Footloose came from?
Yeah.
From this document originally.
So then, like SCP has to like send in like a mobile task force to like neutralize the fucking place and like secure it. It's just a bunch of cool writings put together. It's very, very cool though. And again, some of them are like crazy violent, and some of them are like just goofy and funny. There's one of them where there's like a gelatinous orange blob that loves people and just wants to go hug you, and it makes you feel like better if it hugs you, and it makes you all your feelings go away, like bad feelings go away. So there's fun shit like that too. But then it also goes to like there's a murderous animal that can't be killed, and it kills everything that it sees. And you're like, oh, okay, well, the orange thing is a lot different from that, huh? There's like levels of it.
With the orange thing, maybe.
Yeah, but it's fun as fuck. It's fun as fuck. It's really cool. You'll definitely love it, 100%. So just SCP, look that shit up. SCP Wiki.
All right, it's the rest of my week.
Oh yeah, you could read it. It'll take you months and months and months to read a year probably because there's like over 9,000 of them.
All right, I'm shutting down Line to Liberty for the next 3 months to do a full deep dive on this. Oh wow, there's at least 6,000 of them. Holy shit! All right.
Yeah.
I'll get back to this some other day.
Yeah, and they have like YouTube video, pages dedicated to this shit. It's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm super happy we talked about all this shit.
Yeah, this is my true passion. Like conspiracy shit, weird shit, ancient history stuff, Hollow Earth, how we can tie all of these theories together. Like that's my jam. I should probably start a whole new podcast about it. But I feel like there's a lot of people out there already doing it quite well.
I mean, so. Yeah, Sam Tripoli has one of the biggest conspiracy
Sam Tripoli, Greg Carlwood is fucking amazing.
Yeah. What's the Flesh Park story, Dave? I don't know that one. I think it's probably gross. I'm sure it's like
that. Dave is officially the co-host of this show today.
I know, right? He's helping me out with all these fucking references. So what's your, I guess then, most unbelievable conspiracy that you don't believe is real?
I don't believe is real. I say this is one that I've toyed with long for. I never thought it was real, but it's like sometimes it's interesting enough that I like want to believe it, but I've never been able to bring me around to it, and that's flat Earth. And
Same.
and like I'm very skeptical of space. Very skeptical of space. I'm not even sure if space is real, to be honest. But like what I can tell you is that there are definitely videos of astronauts that are faked. Like I have no doubt about that. You've seen some of those, right? The ones where they're obviously on a green screen, or they're obviously being held up by like weird strings and like no doubt. So if they're faking some of that shit, then are they faking everything that shit is supposed to be training for? Maybe. So that's it. Like the only angle of like, and then, so what are they hiding? Are they hiding the flat earth? I don't fucking know. But then I go back into like, and like, if you look at all these ancient cultures, like they're so like, you can find pyramids in here in Mexico in Teotihuacan, in Egypt, like in fucking North America, there's shit. And they all line up with the stars and like the exact right ways at the exact right times they'd be in certain years and all this shit. So, and like all this math, this ancient math that like adds up to the circumference of the earth. So being so versed in that stuff makes me think like, all right, I'm going to need a lot more evidence for flat earth. I'm going to need to actually get up there and see it. Well, but I do think there's some chicanery around space and NASA, and I'm not going to buy whatever they're selling, but that doesn't mean that the earth is flat either.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you with that. But here's the thing, like I've been in planes and I could see with my own eyes. I could see things. I could see see a curve. Like I see it. I could see it. I don't give a shit. Now you're gonna be like, oh, you don't see with your own eyes, and like that's the thing that we tell people all the time. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? So it's like, well, I see a curve. I don't see what you're saying about the flat thing. I'm sorry, but I agree with you about everything else. Like the space shit's weird.
Yeah, there's weird shit with space. I have no doubt about that.
I'm not even still like anti. We didn't go to the moon.
I'm very pro. We didn't go to the moon, or if we did, it wasn't on that video they showed us.
So this is what I was gonna say. I can't. I don't have proof that we did or didn't. Right. I will say this. This is what I do think happened. I think if they did go and they did film it, I think they couldn't figure out a way to get that shit back safely, the film. And they went, fuck it. We got to prove it somehow. Mm-hmm. And they might have filmed it just in a fucking movie studio to be like, look, fuck you, Russia. That's also possible. I don't know. I don't want to just say no. You know what I'm saying? Because then I feel like we're just as bad as everybody else.
There's so much weird shit with the moon.
Yeah.
They lost all the telemetry data, which should be like the most important thing you would never want to lose, that you'd have 30,000 copies of. And they just
over.
Yeah. They recorded like the Brady Bunch over it or something. You're like, oh, really? That's what happened?
It's like, I don't know. It's why I remember Alex Jones interviewed a NASA scientist one time. Or retired NASA scientist one time, and he said that we did go to the moon, but the footage was fake, and we actually had a second astronaut team up there in case the first one crashed and died. They would have just passed it off as that never happening, and they would have landed the second vessel and been like, "We did it." But
so is that under that theory? Was it the same guys we saw that went to the moon, and then they also separately filmed some video that wasn't those guys? Is that the idea?
That's what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I don't know. That was his words, not mine. I have no fucking idea. I'm just throwing out all the things I've ever heard about the moon that you might not have heard before. Because you sound like you're very well versed in this. So I'm trying to throw out.
I'm pretty versed in most conspiracies. I'm actually shocked I never heard of the SCP thing, because I'm so down on this stuff, but maybe I'm just a little bit of a boomer on that one.
Yeah. Well, NASA has that machine that makes weather.
Yeah. That we know. They've had weather manipulation for like 100 years. Like they can make it. That's why like anytime there's these like forest fires in California, it's like you talk about this, you can make it rain, like, but they just don't do it. So it's like, okay, so you're saying the planet's changing and we're all gonna die because the weather's changing. Meanwhile, we know you manipulate weather. We know you can manipulate weather. We know that does happen. But yet when there's an extreme tragedy where you can really use some fucking rain, suddenly that doesn't happen. Yeah, because then they have to admit they're doing it, but which they don't want to do.
It's from that old show that Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear, before he was on Top Gear, was like a younger version of him. He was at that giant, and he's like, we could actually they could make rain, and then he's like, he had the ear protection on. He's like, it's so fucking loud because it was like producing like those clouds essentially. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, 15 minutes later, he's like, I can't believe it's actually fucking raining.
It's wild. Yeah.
It's wild.
But some people would be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. Like this is not even the realm of conspiracy. It's literally like everyone involved admits it. We just like, it just sounds so crazy that people don't think it's real.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, those are weird. Again, it's like the dinosaur bones thing.
Yeah.
People are like, no. I'm not even. That's not even a conspiracy.
Like, trust
I'm
me,
like, the
I believe
museums
much
say it.
crazier shit than this. Like this
I
one's
know.
actually legit.
I'm like, the museums openly admit it on their websites. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, this
Yeah.
isn't. Like, I am right.
Like you have never, none of us have been in a museum and seen a dinosaur that was a dinosaur. But like ever. That's never
Ever.
happened.
A full one. You see like maybe the skull, or like part of the skull, or like its rib cage. That's it. The piece they die cast the other shit and make it. Like it is what it is. Like most dinosaur skulls you see are fake. They're just molds. It's wild. It's fucking crazy. And you go through your whole life not thinking that.
Yeah. Like I remember when I was a kid, I was like, oh, bitchin', they like dug up this dinosaur and just put it here. Like, no, none of that ever happened.
Yeah. But then it's like my belief in the Hollow Earth stuff is like, well, maybe there were giant dinosaur type things that like, that like roamed the earth or whatever. Like, I don't know. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. I'm not even like anti-dinosaur at all. I'm just saying like it's just
Anti-dinosaur.
Because it's like, well, they say we used to have giant beavers and sloths and shit, right? Also, we have like the bones for those. I don't know. Like we have bones for shit. Like, are they all like? So I don't. Blue whales exist, dude, and they're literally gigantic. They're the biggest things ever, and we see those,
huge,
and those are real.
Yeah.
So it would be foolish for me to think that we also didn't have giant land animals either, right?
Yeah, but I mean the whales and stuff are. I mean, I guess that what's the biggest land animal? Like the elephant, African elephant, probably.
Has to be.
I'm just guessing here, but yeah.
No,
but I mean,
it has
like
to be. Has to
like
be.
the oceans, but even like dinosaurs are supposed to be way bigger than like some dinosaurs. Like a brontosaurus is supposed to be way bigger than an elephant. So I don't know. But they also say maybe the atmosphere was different back then. I don't know. It sounds like not like sometimes the science sounds more ridiculous than like maybe Bigfoot just lived in the Hollow Earth. Like
I remember Neil deGrasse Tyson saying like a Godzilla like creature could never exist because he physically wouldn't be able to walk on dry land because of gravity and stuff. So that actually goes to your point more, I guess, if anything.
I don't have points. I just say things when it comes to this stuff anyway. I just like to wildly theorize. That is my thing. That's like one of our that's that show that got taken down was a Conspiracy Corner. It's a show we do for Patreon subscribers only, where we basically just sometimes we have a specific topic we're diving into, and sometimes we're just going off the rails of whatever. Either way, it turns into going off the rails, and it usually comes back to talking about religion for like 30 minutes because every conspiracy can somehow be tied back into like the Bible, whether it's like Bigfoot's really Nephilim giants or whatever. Like it can all go back to like any ancient texts like talk about so much shit that is like you can now look at as like what would be conspiracy fodder today, or even like looking at like the Mahabharata, like all the shit that went on there, like they're talking about space gods and fucking laser beams and all this shit, and that's like history. And maybe it's crazy, but I don't know, maybe it's not, maybe it's just the conspiracy stuff of the day.
Did you ever hear the Afghan giant story from like a few years ago?
I don't know. I've heard a lot of giant stories, so I'm not sure if that one specifically.
This one is like as in like 2012-ish. Apparently, we sent like a fucking SEAL team to fucking apprehend this Afghani giant that was living in the caves, and like they dropped the SEAL team in the cave system, and they went to go get him, and like he speared one of the SEALs, and then they fucking killed him. But like it was like this, it's like a major story that went around like the conspiracy circles, and it still is. Look that one up
too. I have a lot of homework.
Yeah. Look that one up too. A lot of that, and then people, if I say that, people are like, that's fucking crazy. I'm like, I don't know. The military has run crazy secretive experiments we found out about for all of history. What are you talking about?
Yeah, this stuff's always the stories have always been there, so it's certainly nothing new. And I think like in some ways, our like modern day conspiracies are just like other interpretations of shit that people have been saying and seeing or whatever. I don't know the truth of any of this shit, but for like literally since the dawn of mankind. So none of it's new. We're just filtering it through new things. Like UFOs have been around forever, but we're now filtering them through space travel and spaceships because now we think we went to the moon or something. So now we think of it. Once we got flight, we started seeing UFOs as machines. Before that, they were probably seen as something else. So like we're always filtering these weird phenomenons through the culture and the perspectives of the day. But I think they're all phenomena that have been here since forever, since before any of us, since before the big feet, maybe even.
Dude, I should this episode Big Feet with Marc Clair.
The giant of Kandahar was an enormous humanoid creature allegedly encountered and killed by a group of American soldiers on a mountain. There's even a picture of him that I don't think is a picture, but it's this giant holding the soldier with a spear.
That's a cool picture. I've seen that one.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Dave. Fucking another one. He goes, one of my favorite theories I've heard recently is that subdivisions are made to keep families complacent and in the system. Maybe, bro. I don't fucking know. I live in an HOA. You might be right. It's a scam. I keep paying more money each month for no fucking reason, every year for no reason. My shit's not nicer outside. You might be right. Wow. I'm super glad we went down this road. We got to do a whole other episode.
For sure.
In the future, just conspiracy shit, you and I.
Absolutely.
We got to get Dave involved in that one, too. We should do a fucking... Yeah, we're going to do that.
I agree. I'm
in. Fucking Marc Clair, Fat Dave, and myself. We're doing a fucking conspiracy episode for sure. Mark, totally tell everybody where they can find you because we've been a little over an hour. I don't want to hold you anymore.
So many places they can find me.
Yeah.
My Twitter, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. It's at Marc D. Clair. That's Mark with a C, M-A-R-C, the letter D, Claire, C-L-A-I-R. And all the podcasts, Lions Liberty. You can find me at lionsliberty.com. I also have a comic podcast, the Second Print Comics podcast with my co-host Remzo Martinez that drops every Wednesday. So you can find me on the flagship show on Monday on Lions Liberty, and then on Second Print on Wednesdays, and then on Twitter just tweeting away. Also have a Substack, markclair.substack.com, where I write things when I think of them.
Hold on.
Maybe I'll be writing about Big Feet later. We'll see.
You have to. If you don't, I'll be so disappointed. You're gonna write about Big Feet. I'm gonna be so mad at you.
Maybe later this week. Maybe on Thanksgiving.
Dickie, you too. You could also do a conspiracy show with us. That's
yes.
fine. I also forgot. Fuck, we didn't even talk about it.
Okay.
We get to do an episode about this too next time. Comic books. We're both giant comic book nerds.
Yes.
I totally forgot.
That could be a whole nother tangent as well.
Fuck, dude.
All right, we got a couple podcasts to plan.
We got a couple podcasts to catch up to.
Indeed.
Mark, brother, thank you so much for fucking coming on and doing this. This is a long time in the making. I'm glad we finally did it because we have so much in common. So again, future episodes to do about other nerdy shit,
a lot,
conspiracy stuff. Everybody, thanks for tuning in, checking out, bullshitting with us, and hanging. I don't know who my next guest is. We'll figure it out, guys. It's been fun. Peace out.
Thanks for listening. Find Adam on social media, Twitter and IG at Adam Nutter, or Facebook and TikTok at Adam Nutter Comedy. And for podcasts and merch, check out www.droptent.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
This has been a Drop Tent Media Production.